The Balkans really doesn't trust governments. Here's why, and how it actually creates safer societies that gets more done. Hello and welcome back to the Traveler Report. Today we're going over why exactly places in the Balkans, like Bulgaria, which I am presently in Plovdiv, Bulgaria. However, why the Balkans really doesn't trust the government. And because they don't trust the government, actually, it's a safer society. If you look at maps of crime, global crime indexes, it's often that the Balkans is amongst the lowest. And while that may seem counterintuitive at first, as no one in the Balkans trusts their government, so how would they trust the police? But when you actually operate on the ground, you understand exactly how it works. It's through family orientation and community outreach that people in these societies don't end up stealing and don't end up committing violent crimes. Oftentimes, there are two-parent households. People do end up raised in families that are tight-knit. People do have community support. And oftentimes, there isn't a necessity, right, for stealing. Even if they are, quote-unquote, poorer than Western Europe, they have more social support than what is seen in Europe, more broadly, and especially when comparing to Western Europe, it is significantly less individualistic and more driven by community, which is inherently something that is very different to what would happen in a place like the United States or Western Europe. And so, as time goes on, I think that we will see that crime will drop even further as Bulgarians and Romanians and so forth are extremely accommodating. And I feel as if, actually, the communities of people that live in these places, part of the reason why they are so good at integration is there's no judgment for you trying to integrate. Whenever I speak Bulgarian, it's not oh, it's okay, I speak English. It's oh my gosh, you're trying to speak Bulgarian. Awesome. If it makes you more comfortable, I'll speak English. However, there's no real thought that somehow by integrating you are poor at integrating. I feel like that's a very Western concept. Poor integration. What does that even really mean? In context, because integration ultimately comes down to support by the community for integration, which a lot of Western societies lack. They lack that support to integrate. They lack the understanding that you need to help someone to integrate. Whereas the East instinctively loves to help people integrate and loves to help people understand. And whenever I was first going to Plovdiv, I was walking with my suitcase to my hostel, which I'm presently in my hostel right now, and people were extremely quick to realize I was lost and point me to exactly where I needed to go. And while, of course, I believe the totality of that wasn't too large, it's those small things that really help people to feel integrated, to want to integrate into a society. And whenever the West decides that someone isn't integrated, they often shut them out instead of trying to help them to integrate. And I'll give you an example. Whenever I go to Germany, it's often that unless I speak fluent German, which I do speak German, but I speak it with an accent. So I'll say stuff like gerne, because I grew up speaking Yiddish as well. So the is just easier for me. Or, gerne it's more difficult for me to say the soft H in that context. And so it's often that Germans will point that out and say, oh, you will never be German, blah, blah, blah. And then whenever I go to Bulgaria and I say Dobry den, they're like, oh my gosh, he's trying to speak Bulgarian. 2 words. 2 words is all it takes. And that's something that is somewhat of a superpower of the Balkans and somewhat of a superpower of the lack of trust of government, as it does tie in to the lack of trust of government, as they don't believe the states will be able to integrate these people. And so instead, they take it upon themselves, and it's a personal thing for them to help society and help people understand their culture. And then if they reject their culture afterwards, after they try and help integrate, then in that circumstance, they will get upset, they will get furious, because they didn't try hard enough. And they want to retain their culture, they want to retain their European identity, and they'll allow anyone to integrate into their society. But that's the thing, you have to integrate in these societies. And of course, as I spend more time in these countries, I lived in the Balkans for now probably about a year, and I'm about to go back to the Caucasus, and this even extends to the Caucasus, albeit not Georgia, and I'll get to that when I get to Georgia. However, when speaking to people, it's often they just want people to be kind, and they want them to feel safe and accepted, but on the terms that they then reciprocate that safety and the respect of accepting their culture. And so, if you're looking for consulting on where exactly you would fit in best and integrate into best, feel free to reach out for a call. You can book a call on my Calendly link down in the description below. If you liked this video, feel free to like it. If you really liked this video, feel free to share it with your friends. If you want to join me on the journey of internationalization and globalization, feel free to subscribe to this channel. This has been the Traveling Report, signing off.